This is the DRF Players Podcast. Here are your hosts, Peter Thomas Fornatel and Jonathan Kinchin.
They move to the top of the stretch. A head-and-head battle. Looks like a showdown in the fog. It is Good Magic on the inside. Justify on the outside. Even turns. And they're head-to-head into the stretch as they make the turn for home. And now Justify and Mike Smith trying to grab the lead. Justify begins to pull away. Justify is in front. Justify, and here's Tenfold on the outside. Bravazzo. Justify, Bravazzo, Tenfold. Then Good Magic and Lone Sailor, followed by Sporting Chance.
That's what it sounded like, thanks to Dave Rodman, with what will surely go down as one of the more difficult race calls you'll ever hear. Foggy Pimlico looking like Soldier Field back in the day. I was looking for Mike Ditka on the sideline in the Fog Bowl version of the Preakness. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatal, your host on the DRF Players Podcast. Hello and welcome to show 338, the May 22nd, 2018 edition. We've got our Preakness recap show, and we've also got a lot of talk today about the debut of the World Horseplayers Tour. The World Horseplayers Tour apparently so successful that the man you're about to hear from has been on a bender for a couple of days and nearly didn't make the show. But like Rocky at the end, he finds a way to answer the bell. I don't know where in the world he is at this point. I'm going to take a little shot that he is in Sin City, Las Vegas at this point. But he's from the planet Texas. Soon you're going to know him as one of the commentators on the World Horseplayers Tour. But right now you know him as the People's Champ. He's Jonathan Kinchin. JK, what's up?
Look, I've been literally to two of my brother's shows in the last year or so, and this just happened to be a little bit of the aftermath from one of them. Everything's all good. Everything's good. Went to bed at a decent hour. I did just wake up to Robert Chow over here next to me, and then a big box of pizza that I ordered and did not eat last night, but that's not really a problem. We'll figure the rest of that out here in a little bit.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, last time I understood it a little bit more because it was a nighttime show. At least I believe the show was happening during the day. Is that correct?
They played at 2:30. However, it's still Vegas. It is still Vegas, but no, everything's fine. Everything's good to go. I've just got to decide if I'm going to eat this pizza or not.
I would do it. Cold pizza, get some warm beer to wash it down. You'll be all set. Probably have some of that sitting around as well, I'm going to guess. I'm sorry if I was a little stiff with you before the show, JK, berating you for making me panic and run around and, email half a dozen people saying, hey, can you be a last-second guest on the pod today? JK's stiffened me again. And then I was cursing myself, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you way, because I didn't know that MK was performing in Vegas, and I could have yesterday reminded you 16 times to make sure that your alarm was set. So now, be honest. Did the alarm wake you up, or were you smart and did you set an alarm and wake up, or did you just get lucky and when I started blowing up your phone, one of them woke you up?
Look, sometimes you handicap the race right, and the horse that you like wins. Sometimes you hit the all button and you get lucky. This morning was a little bit of the all button thing. I just happened to, if you're a God-fearing man, God happened to wake me up at
a little bit the hand of God, a little bit the hand of Kinchin. We'll go with that.
There you go.
Got to get some World Cup references in the podcast. Sorry to the English fans who had to endure the memory of 1986 there for a second. And for the Americans, congratulations to the five of you who actually understand where I'm going with this reference. Let's talk Preakness, JK. There was Justify emerging from the fog with the lead and getting the job done in the Preakness. Before I give you my 2 cents, what did you think of the performance, of what you could see of it anyway?
Yeah, I guess it depends on where you watched it, right? I mean, the Pimlico feed, which we were watching together, was a little bit shaky. Like, they literally had a still at the top of the stretch, and we were just waiting for them to reappear. The NBC feed, all with a little bit more probably access to cameras and angles. I've watched that probably 6 times since. Was obviously much more You could see what was happening. You actually could see the move in which Justify took over from Good Magic. But it was exciting. It was different. It was weird. I can say that for sure. When they got waiting for them to kind of show up in the picture. I'm going to give myself a couple of weeks, I think, before I make a full decision. But I believe I am a Justify believer in what he did, being challenged the whole way by a quality horse. Maybe didn't go as fast as American Pharoah, but obviously American Pharoah didn't have to deal with the pressure for the length of time that Justify did.
The big story of the race, it seems, in the aftermath, well, the second lead, the first lead being Justify bidding to become the second Triple Crown winner in 4 years for Bob Baffert. But it seems like a lot of ink and verbiage have been spilled, metaphorical ink these days, I should say, and verbiage have been spilled about the ride on Good Magic. We talked about the possibility on the show on Friday where I said, the way that this isn't the easy exacta is if Good Magic goes and actually tries to win the race. That appeared to be exactly what happened. What was your take on what happened in the first 100 yards of this race, JK?
I remember watching it saying, come on, Jose, take him back. And then I kind of realized, like, the horse wasn't really allowing that. The horse kind of broke sharp and kind of put himself in that position. And then it was one of those jockey dilemma situations where today our conversation would be, like it was with Frosted and it was with all these other horses, is like, well, you can't let Justify walk on the lead. So, Jose pressured him, but what else was he going to do? He got into that situation. He was going to let Justify go 47 to the half or 48 to the half instead of 47. I think in hindsight, it wasn't ideal. It wasn't the plan, but what else was he supposed to do? And what would have happened if he would have done something different? I don't think it changes the outcome there.
That's interesting because I definitely do think it changes the outcome. I don't think it changes the winner. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, now you're being a steward on me here, and with the.
Well, maybe you're right. No, I got to think of that.
Yeah, I don't think it changes I don't think it changes who's in the winner's circle. So when I say the outcome, I don't think it changes who wins the race.
Gotcha.
However, I think it does. You're probably right. It does change how the race was won.
But maybe. Well, here's how I was thinking of it, and you put this. I love what you said. Is put an interesting thought worthy of discussion in one's head. I believe, in theory, if they'd gotten the trip that Chad Brown seemed to want, Good Magic runs second in the race. However, in the real world, I happen to agree with you. I wasn't seeing a hard push gate situation there for Jose Ortiz aboard Good Magic. I think Good Magic was exceptionally sharp coming back in 2 weeks. And I think, like you said, JK, the horse put him in the race. And then from there, if he hammerlocked him or something, he could easily have still run out and given himself no chance to win the race. What Jose did to me was very smart, and he tried to win the horse race, which is what you're supposed to do, and what we all complain about when we don't see in races at Saratoga on the turf, in New York and California, elsewhere. New York seems particularly a flagrant place where you see a lot of very passive riding and horses getting easy leads and a lack of aggression, and we complain about it all the time. It's a bingo square, actually. We complain about it so much. Passive rides, or I can't remember what our man Gene put in there exactly, but if you get your card out, you'll see the one I mean, and you can check it, I think, for this tangential conversation to it. But to me, you can't be us complaining about passive rides and then complain about what Jose did. That was the way that horse was going to win. And, especially with the post positions and the way it went, with him being inside of Justify, we're going to be very hard to get the exact Justify trip. I have zero problem with it, and I assume you feel the same.
No, absolutely. And Good Magic, I think someone said, I don't remember who it was, after the race said, man, Justify buried Good Magic. But the truth of the matter, he didn't really bury him. He stayed on pretty darn well. I
said that, and you know what it was? It was just a lost in the fog situation.
Right.
Like, Good Magic ran an incredible race. I mean, he's right there within 2 lengths, contending fractions that they did not get coded red, but they on Timeform US. But I mean, these were serious. It was serious gas early, slow late race to me. And no, Good Magic from an ability point of view, I think ran a very good race. Justify better on the day. Justify saved by the wire, certainly, but that's excusable when you run that fast early. Now,
right, and
you go ahead.
And I also think it's important to note that like good horses can move sooner and have a more sustained move than bad horses. And why that's important, I think, is that like, yeah, okay, they didn't go as fast early as, say an American Pharaoh did. However, they engaged each other sooner than American Pharaoh had to dig down deep. And I think that happens a lot of times in racing. Is like when does that run have to begin? Does it begin at the 3/8? Does it begin at the quarter mile? And I think with good horses, it happens earlier, and then it can maybe dull the quote unquote performance. But I think that those are much more challenging situations than being kind of loose on the lead like Pharaoh was.
For sure. And that's a very good observation. And it leads me to think about how if racing were covered like another sport, the kind of narratives that people will talk about in other sports. Here's one way of looking at this race. And this isn't necessarily how at the end of the day I look at it and I'm going to bet it going forward, but we'll get to that. But when you are you're basically in an extended war with a champion, Good Magic. This is not some no hope or speed horse. This is a horse who just ran second in the Derby, Grade 1 winner, 2-year-old champ, Breeders' Cup juvenile winner. When you look at it in terms of class, whatever you want to call it, class or form in the English sense, it's that moves it up tremendously in impressiveness, the way it would be covered sort of like as a sport if it were, the equivalent metaphor in baseball or football isn't popping to my head, but there's a way you can spin it where it's very impressive. And then there's the other way to spin it, which is that here you have a horse who ran his slowest race and was saved by the wire, and you have 5 horses, that you could throw a blanket over on the line, which also makes it seem like it's not a fast race, which is, generally speaking, true. So which side of the line do you want to fall on, JK? I'm just going to put your feet to the fire, and you can punt if you want. But of those two opposing views, which one are you on?
Well, I think one of the things that's weird is when the track comes up sloppy like that, and it's just been pouring rain. I think it's probably not the easiest track to make a figure on. Sometimes it is. I've actually, I think we had Paul and Craig on at one point, and they said that that's not always the case. However, I do think it's a little tricky when it's a distance that's like run once a year, right? So that can be kind of tricky a little bit. Look, I do agree that it wasn't the fastest of race, but like you said, the dynamics of the fact that the Justify and Good Magic both were doing things to each other early that I think affected them long term. I think the same can be said about the Derby. Like Justify ran so fast early that the fact that he came home slow is like not really anything that we need to knock him for. So I'm not going to pick the fast race, slow race, but I'm going to pick good race, bad race, and I think it was a good race.
And I get what you're saying in terms of, measuring his ability based on how he had to run early and whom he had to defeat before appearing to visibly tire to those horses in the stretch. I will say this, there's disagreement among figure makers about the race. Bayer team had it come back at a 98? Is that what we saw?
I believe so. I for some reason I thought in my brain 97, but I haven't actually put my eyes on it, so I could be wrong about that.
Either one doesn't really change the point because Timeform and Craig had it come back raw at 125, upgraded to a 128. The way that I convert those figures to try to compare apples to apples, that puts it more like if you're going by the sort of ability baked in figure of the adjusted Timeform rating as opposed to the pure speed figure, that's more like a 108 Bayer So it's interesting. I mean, even super sharp people can have disagreements about this. Here is my issue with Justify going forward. And I kind of had it I could have written this before the race. I might have even said it on Friday. I don't fully remember. It was a long weekend. I thought I was on a bender till I talked to you. And then, and here's how it goes. It's sort of just comparing Justify to himself and realizing, I joked about how much I didn't care about the Apollo Curse going into the Derby, and I still don't. But there is no doubt that this was a horse who had to play some catch-up to bring his form to where it was. And there is no doubt that in Bob Baffert's ideal world, if you told him at the middle of last year, okay, here's what your horse is going to have to do. You're going to have to run, I wish I knew the exact numbers, well, whatever it's going to be now, 6 races in X weeks, is that ideal? He would have laughed at you and said, no, that would be extremely hard to get that many races in that period of time. That's what Justify is trying to do. And even if you take the positive view of the Preakness, I feel like when you upgrade the Derby run for how absurdly fast that was early, the general line of Justify's form ain't heading in a forward trajectory, and he's going to have a very difficult race in 3 weeks' time. Now, could it trip out? Could the pace dynamics suit him? Could some of the main contenders with common ownership decide not to run? Could things set up for him, and could he win? Absolutely. But to me, it's not even odds on to me that he'll win, and the price is going to be long odds on. Your thoughts?
I feel like that, when a guy steps to the free throw line for a game-winning shot, when he's been put, 3 seconds left, if he's won a championship prior, the pressure is probably not there. He's not going to overextend or not follow through. He's just going to relax. He's already got the ring, right? I feel like the same thing is going to happen with Baffert in this situation where, yes, this horse could potentially be at the point where he's going to boil over, but Baffert's not going to panic. He's going to turn the heat down a little bit. He's going to walk the horse. He's going to jog the horse. He's going to really take it easy on him and not have that fear of, I hope I follow through. I hope I do enough with this horse, because he's got the pressure off. He's won this race. He's won a Triple Crown. He did it in everyone's recent memory. I think that he'll pull off the gas a little bit and do everything that he probably should do for the horse that I assume that another trainer under more pressure might make a mistake and do.
I love that point. And you got to figure Baffert among them with some of his early contenders who didn't make the Triple Crown. We had that stretch of so many failed Triple Crown bids in a row. Do you remember off the top of your head?
No, I've been saying like 13, but I don't know if that's right or not. I'd have to look, I guess.
Yes, I know. Who wants to do that, though?
It's 11 or 13, I think, before Pharaoh. I believe it was 11 or 13 between Affirmed and Pharaoh.
And it might be both those numbers are right in the sense that maybe there were 13 who won 2 and 11 who won the first 2 and didn't, or something crazy. But anyway, regardless, it's a big number. And you can absolutely see what you're saying of trainers feeling pressure and maybe overdoing it. And I think you're right. I think you'd think Justify's best chance is to just try to hold that form. It's Jonathan Shepard, I once heard quoted as talking about horses and their ability to fire and compete at a top level, using the metaphor of a stick of butter, and big efforts are like taking cuts off that stick of butter. And I think that the move here might be to put the butter back in the fridge and take it out and see if you can get one more pat at it before what I would imagine would be a well-deserved break into a fall campaign one way or another for Justify in the Belmont Stakes. So you sound like you are more pro-Justify than I am for this next race?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm gonna do what I did last time, and I'm gonna say I'm gonna wait to see what happens, because I'll be honest, and you were there. We were on our way to film the first day of the World Horseplayers Tour, and we checked with 2 clockers and got 2 different things. We got looks fine from one and so from the other. And I'm going to reserve judgment to see how he does. He's going to go back to Churchill. Or he's already back at Churchill. So I'm sure when he starts to get back on the track, we'll hear more to see from people that have seen him for the last, 5 weeks, I guess at this point. No, I guess maybe 4 weeks. And so we'll know more. I mean, I want to see how his energy level is. I want to see how he comes out of the race from a purely, like, from a race standpoint and race dynamics. Like, this race hits him square in between the eyes. I mean, he's a big, talented, well-bred, long striding, tactical, forward, great bottom, in terms of his fitness. I mean, everything about him, like, screams he'll handle the mile and a half. He'll do it easier, and he could be better at a mile and a half than he is at the other two distances. So I'm not overly concerned, obviously, but I share the same concerns at a base level that you do.
There is also a lot of talking about the fact that both the Derby and Preakness came up super sloppy. Hopefully that will not be the case in 3 weeks' time in New York. But I have to ask the question: do you think there's any chance this horse could be benefiting from the sloppy conditions?
I'll be honest. I can't handle another sloppy track. I've ruined 2 pairs of fresh shoes. I'm joking. I mean, I don't think he necessarily, like, I don't think he's like some, praise exaggerator. Hopefully he doesn't get mad at me next time I see him. I don't think he's some, like, slop. He has to have the slop to win a race, or whatever.
You had just made up with exaggerator, and then now you come back to the wet track narrative. Your name is going to be mud at Windstar, I'll tell you. But
hey, how fun is it going to be? I just had this vision of the first time that we walk into beautiful Windstar Farm, the big screen TVs to the side. You look up, you'll probably see some kind of trophy. It's either going to be a Derby trophy, possibly a Triple Crown trophy, and then you get to walk into that beautiful, like, wooden arena where the stallions come through, and you get to see this big joker come walking through with the big white face. It just all kind of came to me for a second there.
That's pretty cool. I got a little goosebumpy there talking about that, and that probably does get you back on the Windstar Christmas card list, in which you were in danger of being cut off. My friend,
I had an all Windstar double with Yoshida and Justify. So Sean was very proud of that. I told him that maybe they'll take my picture and put it in the Windstar office holding up the ticket.
Don't hold your breath. I'm tempted to go on a tangent here, but I'm going to bring it back. My friend Mike Pesca, who has a new book out that I was very proud to contribute to, called Upon Further Review, has a theory about clutch ability in sports that I just love. And it pertains, I think, to Justify and a wet track. And what he thinks is it's not that there's some, like, magical clutch ability that's part of professional athletes' skill set, so much as it's that there's a small group of players who don't do well in the most pressure-filled situations. As a Mets fan, Armando Benitez pops into mind, who would be just absolutely lights out in August with a 3-run lead in the 9th inning, but you put him up there in the playoffs or against the Braves on the last weekend of the season, and you get ready for the meltdown. And the way that pertains, in my opinion, is I think that wet tracks just happen to hurt some horses a lot more than they help them. And I think that, so in a sense, the slop, if it's helped Justify, it's because it probably bothers him, especially with the great point you made, JK, about his running style, bothers him less than it bothers the others. I don't expect him to improve on a dry track. I just don't really see it as a factor at all when handicapping the Belmont. Agree or disagree?
I prefer to see a fast track, and I think that he'll probably, probably excel in that situation. I mean, I think that a lot of, like, the last 2 sloppy tracks are probably even more of a reason why you just want to get him away from there, get him in the clear, and not worry about it. He's not like he's not an unkind horse. I mean, I don't necessarily think they want to sit him in behind something, but there's nothing about him to this point that makes me say, like, oh, that wouldn't work. So I think he could definitely probably be rated. But to your point, I agree. I just think the slop was circumstantial, and I don't think we know enough to know if he's going to run faster or slower, if that's what moved him up or didn't move him up. I think that his style helps when it's a sloppy track, but I don't see any reason why he wouldn't excel on a fast track. With that being said, now that we're talking a little bit about Belmont, I'm going to steal your host microphone with the wonderful Mike Cube, and I'm going to ask you, if you were the owner of a horse that ran third in the Kentucky Derby, and you could run that horse against another horse that you owned that was going to run for a Triple Crown, what would you do?
I think it's tricky, really tricky, and I don't think you're going to – there's an article up right now about this on DRF.com, and all the craziness of the last few days. I have not had a chance to read Dave Grenning's article about the common ownership complicating the bid. Sounds like they're going to take a wait-and-see attitude. So it gets super complicated. I think if it were a different situation and Justify were rested, or even the Preakness is a good example where you have Quip. It just seems so obvious to me going into the Preakness that if Justify showed up, he was going to win. It didn't seem to be too many realistic scenarios where Quip was going to beat Justify on the square. It was going to be either something went wrong and Justify didn't show, and then you'd think they would have thought Quip would have had as good a chance as anybody, or Justify was going to win and Quip runs for his minor award. This is different, totally different, in my opinion, especially with, there's just that hint of declining form from Justify with the running slower early and slower late, essentially. I have to do a little bit of math on that, but I think that's going to be right in the Preakness as opposed to the Derby. And then, all the historical burden of trying to win the 3 races in 5 weeks. And meanwhile, here's Audible, who exhibits one of the prime patterns for horses who improve again and win the Belmont after running in the Derby, for a trainer who's pulled that move several times. You'd have to look at all the economics. But I think at the end of the day, if it were my call, and I don't want to see this as a fan, and I don't want to see this as a bettor, but this is a business. And if I'm sitting there making a decision about my business, I might say, you know what? It's the Belmont. It's not some great stallion race for my guy Audible, who's already looking so strong on the page with the win in Florida, which is super important, and obviously the Derby run. Maybe we just point him to a little bit of summer campaign, get some look a little Haskell action, something that will, improve his value without risking the chance of damaging the potentially historic Triple Crown bid that's going to hurt me in marketing my other stallion I'm trying to make. You got to think of it like a business, and like these guys are thinking of it. And with that in mind, I don't think you're going to see any My Boy Jack either in there. But I mean, I could be wrong. What would you do?
Well, I'd run Audible in the Met Mile, but that's what I would do.
For real?
Yeah. Look. WinStars is we had this conversation with a taxi driver, which is exciting when you start having conversations about racing with a taxi driver. That's one of the great things about the Triple Crown, is that the rest of the world begins to pay attention. So, and I probably went way into the weeds on him, but when we were thinking about it, was that, remember that Justify is the son of Scat Daddy, who unfortunately is no longer with us. And the thing about that is that Scat Daddy's one of his main knocks that you would get from people is his ability to produce a horse that will go a mile and above. I mean, well, not a mile, above a mile. So now we have a horse who's won 2 classic races on the dirt, obviously well-bred, beautiful physicals, and he's a son of Scat Daddy. American Pharaoh's pedigree wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the next coming. And he's still, but now if we can get Justify to be a Triple Crown winner as a son of Scat Daddy and a Triple Crown winner on the dirt, there's some extreme value there. Not that he's not already going to be a valuable stallion, but I think that it's one of those things that, I think that if you can win 2 legs of the Triple Crown and you have good pedigree, then you'll be a stallion and you'll be an expensive stallion. And you'll be a productive, obviously if everything else works out, you can be a productive stallion. But if you can get that extra commercial push, that extra, I bred to a Triple Crown winner push that you can get, that Pharaoh got, that he might not deserve if it wasn't for that third race. Justify is going to be worth tons of money if you can pull that off. The only tricky part, and I heard this on NBC, Pete, and I don't know if you've watched the broadcast back, but I was watching it. And I don't know who said it. It might have been Jerry. It might have been Randy Moss. But they mentioned the fact that, and I thought it was a really smart idea, is that WinStar is in the business of making a stallion, Starlight and Saul Kuman and China Horse Club. They're into winning races, so it's interesting that there could be a potential difference of opinion when it comes to which side of the aisle those guys land on.
That's a great point. When there's common ownership, you don't always know exactly how that ownership breaks down and what the deal is. I guess before I should clarify, I was talking as if WinStar owned these horses outright, and they do not. So you're absolutely right. It depends on whose interests are going to win the day and how the politics in those partnerships work. West Point are also partners in My Boy Jack, for example. You could see that. You might have 2/3 of the partnership there might vote to run, and 1/3 is ambivalent. Well, then maybe they will run. So yeah, I mean, maybe was speaking a little prematurely when I said that before, but it's interesting to consider, and we're going to see how these politics play out. I believe that if this is going to sound funny, but if he wins, I believe it's going to be because of a favorable pace setup in the Belmont. Let's just talk quickly about who's meant to show up as of now. Bravazzo, who we need to give some props to also, by the way, before this conversation ends. Tenfold, both coming back from their seconds and thirds. My guy Hofberg, who I've already advised betting at 12-1 to the folks who have that type of opportunity available to them. Vino Rosso, another Pletcher who sort of fits that mold. Your boy, Free Drop Billy, and our old friend Gronkowski, another one who's going to be making the appearance. And then there's a few horses who are on the fence about it, as we mentioned, Audible and My Boy Jack, and I think there's going to be a few others as well. So with that group, nobody leaps out as, oh, this is the horse who's going to take the race to Justify. And if he's able to go around there efficiently, not too fast, not too slow, I mean, it could just be a question of he's just got so much natural talent that he's going to be able to do it. That's why I still think he's going to be considered the most likely winner. I'm just imagining a scenario where and we'll take a look at some prices right now, where he's long odds on. And like I said, as we look over those probables, I was thinking he'd be like 11-10 in my value line. I was thinking it would be like an 11-10 shot. As I look through those names, I kind of want to bring that down to even money. But again, he won't be any even money, I don't think. I think he's going to be ridiculously short. Your assessment of the horses who are taking him on?
Yeah, no, we kind of had a conversation, I think, about the idea about the Hofberg thing. I mean, the only way Hofberg has a shot is if he's ridden, jokingly, like someone said this, I don't know if it was you or how Drosselmeyer was ridden, like very kind of like put into the race-ish. Like,
I wasn't joking at all. Why is that?
No, I'm just saying you can't do. I just couldn't remember if it was you that said it or not. But I'm saying you can't be dropped back and try to make one run like he did in the Derby. But I'm not a believer because I just think he just got a setup. I just thought he got a setup in the Derby, and yes, he was stopped, but there was a setup. And I feel the same way about Audible, to be honest. I mean, he was back pretty far off of that fast pace and was closing well. I mean, I'm not knocking the performance I'm not trying to take away his third place in the Derby, but those trips are weird. Those are the types of horses that on a Saturday or on a Thursday at Aqueduct or whatever, I'm not betting that horse back off of that setup.
You're underrating the fact to me that Justify wasn't able to run being stuck in that vice on the turn for like a furlong and a half. So he did semi sort of get a setup a little, but not really to me, because that was trouble aside from the obvious trouble that he had later. I'm less interested in the obvious trouble and more interested in the subtle trouble, and just more interested in the fact of, here we go again, get your bingo card out. You Belmont with a target, potentially. Maybe knowing that the Derby was a big ask, knowing he was talented enough to take a shot, and hopefully he gets the positive ride that he needs, that we can see the race. I am shocked. Prices on Justify. So now Justify before the Preakness was 11-10 to win the Triple Crown, okay, in a lot of places. And so the Preakness has apparently, in bookmakers' eyes over in the UK and Ireland, done nothing to enhance his chances of winning the Triple Crown, which just seems mathematically impossible, for one thing. But I'm seeing 11-10. I'm seeing 11-8. I'm seeing 5-4. I'm seeing some much squarer prices than what I was saying on Justify. Now, what that tells me is, if you have a friend in the UK and you want to bet this horse, get busy, because it ain't going to be that way in the USA Tote, I can guarantee, souvenir tickets alone. I know you don't like this game, but I'm going to make you play it. What price is this horse going to be?
Justifying the Toady. I mean, he's going to be odds on. He's going to be
how short?
1-2. He'll be 1-2.
Yeah, I think
once all the souvenir tickets. Our friend Jimmy, who's a teller, told us that when Big Brown was running, he had some guy show up trying to buy $30,000 in $2 win tickets on Big Brown, and they had like one teller that was just standing there, just continuing to push, repeat, and they only got to like 12,000 or something. So. People that do things like that. I mean, I know it sounds like not much, but it affects. There's also going to be 20,000 or whatever it is that show up there. I mean, I really do think that makes a difference, and the horse will come down quite a bit.
Indubitably, it does. So it's anyway.
And I also can think of 10. I can think of 10 friends that suddenly Sports Center will start talking about it. They'll show up and they'll bet. I mean, I just think that market won't reflect our market here, and I'm not really sure. I wonder how liquid that is.
Which is these bets? These are not liquid.
Yeah,
you wouldn't get a ton, but the fact that it's at every bookie, I mean, you might have to work a little bit, but you could get on. If you're over there, you get a few hundred on, a few $100. You're not going to be making a life-changing score, I don't think. But then again, you don't know. I mean, some of these places you'll occasionally find, that doesn't happen all that often, but you'll occasionally find a bookie over there who's still willing to actually, lay some serious money. But yeah, I should point that out too. It's not like anybody can just walk in and bet thousands. They limit you pretty quick. But Rob Dove, one of the top 10 pro punters in the UK today, if you're listening, something to think about. Something to think about if you can get involved with some of that 11-8 out there.
I've been waiting for you to say Mike Maloney, one of the top 10 pro punters in the U.S. today, or Paul Matisse, one of the top 10 pro punters in the U.S. today, or Sean Borman. You haven't done it yet, so I'm waiting for the time where you give one of those guys a shout out for their punting ability in the U.S.
I was hoping to do it on my next TV appearance over there, but maybe you're right. Maybe we should put that one. Maybe we should put that one out in the podcast as well.
Eric Bialik is a big fan of that. Eric Bialik, one of the top 10 horse racing math guys in the U.S. How about that?
He definitely is, except for that one time at Saratoga that Travis Stone still laughs about. His math skills are par excellence. I don't know what was wrong that one day. We just couldn't. We were trying, and it wasn't anything even exciting. We were trying to chop up, $254 6 ways and couldn't figure out how to do it. I don't know what went wrong, but horses bounce. Maybe mathematicians bounce too. Engineers bounce too. Where to go from here? I'm the host. This is my job to figure out. There's a few different interesting threads. Let's take a second and talk about Bravazzo, who I just feel like maybe deserves some props as a horse who has now had pretty good runs in 2 Triple Crown races, going to be coming back for the 3rd. That's pretty cool. You see any reason why he could turn the tables and in the Belmont, and what do you think of him just as a horse?
No, I mean, I think he's like a little bit maybe. I think he kind of likes the surface, possibly. He might be kind of a slop move up.
That's interesting.
I'm just not. I don't need him. I don't need him. I wish we would have bet more when he was 21-1. Thought about that. I don't know. I mean, it's the coach. He shows up and he's got these things going in the right direction. I think he knows knows what it takes to win these types of races. I think that he tightens he kind of, puts the screws to these horses, and the ones that make it this long are obviously pretty good. I thought Sporting Chance would run a little bit better. Unfortunately, I have no idea why he didn't, because I couldn't see it. The way that, even on the NBC feed, most of it was kind of not zoomed in, but was focused in on the top horses. So, I guess he's one that could be a possibility, but I'm struggling with, just like my thing with Hofburg and Audible, I'm struggling with horses that were closing in the Derby as like horses that are somehow going to turn the tables on the big horse. It just doesn't. My handicapping brain won't allow me to accept that as truth.
Yeah, and to get back for 1 second to the Drosselmeyer-Hofburg comparison, Drosselmeyer was set up to have a more positive ride because he was coming out of, I guess, was it the Dwyer? Where's Nick Tamaro when you need him? He was coming out of a one-turn Belmont shorter race that probably sharpened him up. However, in the ridiculously capable hands of Bill Mott, some sort of training technique to hopefully be able to bring him, not saying I want him to be up there on the lead with Justify, but to bring him within striking distance, big wide move on the turn. I can see it in my mind's eye, JK. Now, I'll also say this, more interested in him at the 12-1 that I advised weeks ago than the 7-1 best price currently on offer. I'll just give you a quick recap of the prices for the Belmont right now. At one, I'll just choose. They vary a bunch between the books, and you can see it all for yourself on oddschecker.com. But at one of the sharper books, Justify evens, Audible 4s. Don't touch that with a 10-foot pole, folks, till you know that he's running, because these are not non-runner, no bet. Good Magic at 6. He obviously will not be running. That's not good that the books still have that up. Hofburg at 7. My Boy Jack 8. Another don't touch. Bravazzo 9. Tenfold 11. Blended Citizen 12. Vino Rosso 20. Solimini's listed. He ain't going to run, I don't think. Machismo listed here. Who knows? 33-1. Instilled Regard listed on here. 33-1. Free Drop Billy at 50-1. Your guy. And then Gronkowski 66-1. Another horse who will certainly be shorter on the day for the name alone. Do any of those appeal to you?
Not really, and it's not because I'm just like, obviously I hope, and it's I'm thinking of all the positive reasons why Justify will run well, and I'm obviously I'm a fan of the sport first, but so I want him to win, but there's not really a lot of horses in that group that like get me really excited about potentially betting. There's no Tonalist obviously I thought was one that was interesting. I thought Frosted was interesting against Faro, but none of these do I find that to be the case.
You weren't that impressed in the Peter Pan with Blended Citizens run?
No. That's
not much to say about that.
He wins. I'll walk home from, and I'm staying in Manhattan, so that's going to be a long walk. How long would that take me to walk home from Belmont to Manhattan?
First of all, it'd be just difficult to do it without getting yourself, that looking like a game of Frogger. But I'd have to do the math on it. But it'd be, my gut tells me 5-6 hour walk, no joke. We'll put that in Google Maps and find out. Where are you staying? Midtown?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's funny though. Last time at a Triple Crown, it took me about 6 hours to get home anyway, so I might have saved time.
I was curious if you the bait I was throwing into the water to see if you took it was Free Drop at 50, just knowing your profound love for him in the Kentucky Derby and the wonderful conversation you had with our friend from north of the border.
Yeah, I don't think he ran that well in the Derby. I don't think he had that many excuses. I guess maybe he didn't like the surface was what Robbie said when he came back, or Landry, or I can't remember who was on him at this point. They've gone back and forth, but. And that could also lose a little enthusiasm because, part of my Free Drop Billy love was that Dale was going to, excel on his home court and in a race that he does well in. It's not like Dale's known for running well in the Belmont. Though I do believe First Dude probably hit the board back in the day, but no, I'm maybe I just don't see how anyone's gonna beat this horse who's not had things his way, which Justify really hasn't. Yes, he's been on the front end in these races, but he's running. He's not got an easy trip. Pharaoh, so I just don't see how any of these are going to turn the tables on him.
It's another one of those, it depends. You can argue it out of, there's a great thing about racing. You can argue the stuff out of both sides of your mouth. On one level, he's run these hard races. He's that good. On the other level, he's run these hard races. How is he going to, he hasn't gotten any breathers. How is he going to come back and end up, with 6 races in X weeks, blah, 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 blah. Depends on how you want to look at it. Price should be your guide. UK fans and Irish fans may have a very different result to this query than USA fans. My gut is to be against, but we'll see. It's not a strong. It could easily go either way. It's always hard when you're opposing the most likely winner. That's just something that I need to honestly get better about in my own horse playing. Is I hate doing it, and we'll try to find clever ways to save. And I mean, maybe that's the move there. You play Justify all Hofburg, Justify Hofburg straight exactas as savers off that each way bet maybe. Producer Craig working overtime today, JK. He gives us the answer. It'd take you 5.5 hours to walk via Jamaica Ave, and you'd have to take a ferry.
No. I'll get Craig to come pick me up. I don't know if he's got a car or not, but I'll get him to rent one or something. I'm not walking.
He does a lot for us, but let's not hope you have to. Let's not hope you have to go to that measure. Not only was it the Preakness this weekend, JK, it was also the Preakness betting challenge. Not coincidentally, the first event in the World Horseplayers Tour. We were out there filming a pilot. I'm just gonna say it. I've seen the future, and it's called the World Horseplayers Tour. What did you think of the event?
Well, it's weird. It's like, it's it's funny. Like I thought when I had my son, I used to see him when he was little. I used to think like, God, he like literally is the cutest little kid I've ever seen. I look back at those pictures and I think, oh, he's looked alienish. He wasn't that cute. He's much cuter now than I thought he was then. So it's weird. It's a hard question to ask because it is our baby and we obviously love it very much. I thought it was remarkable. I thought it was fun. I thought that the format worked out well. I thought that the people seemed to enjoy it. I've seen one person complain. I don't know if you've seen it, but that person complains about anything, so it's hilarious.
What was the complaint?
It's something like
off air.
No, it was like something about like it's that same. We've had that one argument that one time about how like. It's not that great of an idea because Sunday there's no handle for the track, but they're not.
That's BS.
Yeah, there is because there was 100 people that played in a $1,500 contest that were there because of the $5,000 contest that we had the day before. And oh, by the way, we had 100 guys, 92 guys in the $5,000 live bankroll contest that churned at least $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, $900,000. And so we just have to switch the concept for Sunday to make it work for TV and to force the action. Someone also pointed out that, they started, the winner started, or the same person started out that the leaderboard started with, $150,000 in bankroll and ended with like a lot less than that. Well, that's the other reason that we're forcing these players and the strategy to play in a different way.
JK, you know what a poker tournament, what the bankrolls end up with the zero for everyone but one person?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I wish if this was a recorded show, I'd edit that bit out. I don't want to I shouldn't have asked. I should have asked you off air. I was just too curious. Who cares about that negativity? Amazing amount. The best thing to me, three best things to me were incredible job that Santa Anita did hosting. Tom Quigley, Nate Newby, you could not ask for better strategic partners than them and Daily Racing Forum, who hired all the qualifying. The job that Michelle Wilrich of Sarika Productions and her team did blew me away. I was expecting a lot. I expect a lot of people I work with closely. Exceeded any and all expectations of professionalism and just helping make sure things ran smoothly. And then the third thing was the specific composition of the final table. if you could have picked, this was obviously completely random. It could have been anything. And if we could have picked names, every one of the 8 would have been on a short list of, every one of the 8 or someone who filled a similar role would have been on a short list of 20. And we got 8 of them. Incredible luck.
Yeah, no, it was remarkable. I thought that like you said, we couldn't have asked for a better final table. And then, I hit you with a little negative there. I literally have 99 text messages that I have not opened yet on my phone of people saying, like, loved it. It was awesome. Great job. You guys should be proud. I felt like a politician at the end, shaking hands with people saying, like, how cool it was and how proud we should be of getting this done. And thank you for doing it. And we can't wait for the next one. And people telling us that they weren't really sure how it was going to work, but they loved it. I'm really looking forward to the next one. I'm really looking forward to getting this thing turned into a TV show, getting it edited up. I'm proud of the idea that we came up with this vision and it's working itself out. So it was definitely better than I thought it was going to be, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, and you say that having already had high expectations going in, which I think is impressive. Philly Joe Metka, at the end of the day, gets the job done. He's going to be so much fun to build this story around him. 23-year-old Justin Mustari, also just incredible stuff. Apologies for the spoilers, folks, but obviously the results are all over Twitter, and the show's not going to be available for a while. Maybe I should have said if you don't want to know, but the story's still going to play out in such a way where I think you're going to be able to know who wins and still find the thing entertaining, don't you think?
Yeah, the same thing happens in poker, right? It's like, you kind of know who won before, but just how they did it's still interesting. However, I am the guy that, like, if I'm flying and I'm playing in a pick 6, I like text friends like, don't tell me what happened, because I do want to watch it and enjoy the excitement, but that's just not possible in this scenario.
Yeah, there were so many cool moments of strategy, leaderboard movement at the final table. It's kind of like a battle royale with all baby faces in a sense. Like it's all people you can root for. But I guess that happens in some poker tournaments as well. We're going to have so much fun putting this together. Can't wait to sit down with you and Michelle and talk about what comes next. A lot of folks have asked when it will be available. What's the answer to that?
Yeah, so I think that we'll get it edited, we'll get it ready, we'll get the final product done, and then we will talk to the people in the TV world that give us good advice and find out when do we start sitting down with people. What do we do next? When do we throw it on YouTube? All of those things. However, I do know that we will. We have worked out a situation with Fasig-Tipton that we are going to do a premiere party the Wednesday of sale week at the pavilion at Fasig-Tipton, where we'll premiere the show for the first time to the rest of the world. Or even if we decide that we're going to put it on YouTube sooner than that, if it's ready by then we'll still have that kind of party where we can watch it again. But that'll happen sales week, which is also the Wednesday before the contest. So the Saratoga contest. So if you come into town on Saturday, you can hit the Whitney. Monday sale. Tuesday, do that party boat we did, Pete.
No, well,
Wednesday.
Sales 2 nights.
Oh, you can sail twice then. How about that? and then the show premiere on Wednesday. So it'll come a lot quicker than we think.
Yes, and again, then segueing right into the contest, which has been moved. If folks don't know, qualifying for the Saratoga betting challenges is happening now on DRF Tournaments. Go to tournaments.drf.com to check all that out. And the wonderful news about that being Friday, Saturday. So maybe Thursday night is Thursday, Friday. No, oh my goodness. I'm having a brain freeze. JK, help me out.
On the contest, it's Friday, Saturday, right?
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Friday. Yeah. It's Friday is they call it something, the Saratoga Challenge or something, and then Saturday is the 4-Star Dave Challenge. So it's actually 2 one-day contests, and it will actually happen on 4-Star Dave. 4-Star Dave Day. Woo!
Beautiful. That's going to be a really fun time to target if you're looking for your Saratoga plans. Whitney through 4-Star Dave, and Thursday the night to go to Saratoga Lake and take out the little tiki boat so we can get Captain Colleen to take us around again. Hopefully we won't smash the boat into any low-hanging bridges this time. But that's a story for another podcast. More about the World Horseplayer Tour. We've got a planned event around it at EquestriaCon as well, JK. Have you talked to our friends over there about that at all?
No, I know that we're trying to work something out to get it there so that others can see it. But the idea is that if you're a fan of the concept, you understand what we're trying to do, you support the idea, is that we'll be calling upon you for support, whatever it's going to be. We need you to show up for the next contest. We need you to tweet the video, whatever it might be. There's going to be things that people can do that can help. And so, obviously we'll be updating as much as we possibly can along the way.
We'll start with an easy one. You can follow at Horseplayer Tour on Twitter. We need to get that follower count up, because that'll be a great way to get information out there if folks want to do that. Eventually, we have great ideas for support, and we've talked about this before, but I'll say it again because I'm much more excited about this piece of the puzzle now even than ever before as well. The idea that the players are going to own the tour the way that the community in Wisconsin owns the Green Bay Packers. We want to have this set up financially, and I've had some new ideas about this we haven't even talked about, JK, that maybe you're going to make it a lot more practical. I realized, hey, we originally talked to like a Hollywood type accountant about it who made it sound like this world-bending difficulty. We're in the horse business, man. We got horse partnerships and horses with, hundreds of partners. They all have to get the same, that kind of paperwork and whatnot. Maybe we talk to somebody who works in the horse business about how we might be able to get a partnership set up where with a couple hundred horse players actually owning this entity. The idea basically is to give horse players more of a voice in the industry and help represent our interests along with those of other groups in the industry who already have a voice, and just be able to work together to do cool things and come up with great events like future World Horseplayers Tour contests. Realistically, JK, when will the next WHT contest be, do you think?
Someone asked me that. I mean, this one came together pretty easily. Not easily, but it came together quickly. But I think that no, you know what I mean. It came together. It came together quickly.
Tour you planned, but mine took a little bit of blood, sweat, and tears.
No. I'm saying it came together quickly because of the support of Santa Anita. If the next event were at Santa Anita, I could see it happening much quicker, maybe sometime in this year. If the next event happens to be at a different racetrack, I would think we would need a little bit more time to kind of plan through that, obviously. Like you mentioned, Michelle Wilrich and her team being local in LA made it very easy to get there, and Nate Newby and Tom Quigley and Mr. Ritbo, their support made it very easy to do it at Santa Anita. In that regard, nothing about the whole thing was easy. So it just depends. It depends, and it also depends, when we get this thing edited. If we sit down with one of our dream broadcast partnership situations and we get that worked out early, then we can move a lot quicker. If it's going to be more of a uphill battle, we have to sit with a lot of people and work through a lot of things. It could be something that happens in 2019. I would like for it to happen in the fall.
I love the vision, JK, and we'll just have to see how it all goes down. There'll be information. The Twitter account's probably the best way. The website, does that have a place where you can sign up for the email yet, or do we need to do that?
No, not yet. That got shuffled down the list of important things. Yes. Right behind the white members only jacket, which
that was a huge hit, wasn't it? I mean, there was a couple of things in this that you brought up along the way. I laughed in your face about the jacket. I didn't really understand, and you were like, "We're going to have the average age in that room be 35 or whatever you said," and I laughed at you about that. And you could not have been more right. I could not have been more wrong on both counts. All the little stuff you did in terms of branding to bring the event together, I think that's part of why it felt so cool and special. And that's what I really think has the potential to take this idea to the next level. So props to you, my friend.
No, I appreciate that, and obviously this whole thing, the amount of hour-long conversations we had to get all of this planned and thought through, and there's a lot of things in life you look back on and you're like, there's no way I could have navigated that by myself, and this is definitely one of them. So I'm glad we got the first one in the bag, and I couldn't have done it without you, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished, but we got to keep rolling here.
Keeping the eyes on the prize. Yeah, somebody said to me along the way, offering some constructive criticism, and said to me, pointed out how little I know about business on this scale. And I think it's one of those things where it's like being young. The great thing about being young, I think back to some of the things I did in my late teenage years and early 20s even. And some pretty cool things came out of it, like project-wise. And I look back now, and it's like, what was great about that was I didn't know enough to be scared. I didn't know enough to know what kind of difficulty I was getting into, and not knowing made me able to do it. I kind of feel the same way about this. At the start of it, it's like if I'd known everything, I would have been too intimidated. But we just went into battle and got it done.
It's like a one-turn horse that they say the best time to bet him is the first time they stretch out, right?
Okay, good. I thought you were going somewhere else when you mentioned a one-turn horse, and I thought we put that to bed. We are out of time. JK, thank you. Thank you for dealing with our self-congratulations today. Hopefully it wasn't too insufferable, but I really do think it's cool, and we'll be talking about this plenty on the podcast in the weeks and months to come. We really appreciate everybody's support. Just like this show, without you listening, without you participating, without you asking questions, etc., it doesn't come together. Thank you to so many of the people who introduced themselves this weekend. Special shout-outs to listeners Rodney Clements and Frank Grabowski, who we got to meet for the first time, who were just fantastic. And having people come in from literally all over the country to support the event, so exciting. And thanks for the props about the podcast as well. For Jonathan Kinchin, I'd like to thank Willie Nile and the voice of the Kentucky Derby, Travis Stone, producer Craig with the Google Maps situation. All good stuff. We will be back on Friday. I'm so excited about how it went. I'm literally going to Disney World like a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I'll be in Orlando on Friday. JK will just try to, set that alarm 15 minutes early so you don't make me grumpy again, and we'll go from there. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatale. May you win all your photos.